Welcome to the 2024 Box Office Awards.
Oh, yes, this is the 6th annual Box Office. I'm sure we called it that every other year, but I'm not going to go back and check. This is the award show where we go through all of our favorite movies and favorite moments from the year in film.
And John, the stars are sure here out tonight.
Absolutely.
We have such luminaries as the vaginoplasty guy from Emilia Perez.
Ooh, looking over here, we've got the devil doll that has a spooky metal ball in its head from Longlegs.
Ooh, we also, right over there, have the spiders that were totally worth it, Mom, from Madam Web.
We've got Henry Cavill from Argyle, specifically the one with a mullet and a southern accent from the end of the movie.
We have over there making a quick way on the red carpet, the rodeo tornado from Twisters. Oh, look out.
We've got shitty AI Ian Holm from Alien Romulus.
Oh, and look over there. I can't believe it. It's star of Y2K, Fred Durst.
We've got shitty AI Tom Hanks from Here.
Ooh, and we have amazing city planner and visionary Caesar Catalina. Oh my God.
We've got the shitty broken AI cars with multiple doors from the poster for Civil War.
Oh my God, I am about to faint. Lady Raven herself is in the audience.
And we've got the shitty AI poster from inside the movie, Late Night with the Devil.
Oh my God, John, hold my hand. We have the tennis ball from Challengers. You know the one I'm talking about.
It goes back and forth. And finally, we've got over there, who's that crying? Oh, that's right. It's a Netflix PR team trying to handle the imploding Oscar campaign for Emilia Perez. All this and more on the Box Office.
Toot toot. Wow.
Look, that was so good. My visuals are starting to disappear on the camera. Welcome, everybody. I'm John.
I'm Veronica.
And this is our 6th annual end of the year award show. End of the year, as in late February. But that's okay. I think now that we've all gotten a little taste of 2025, we don't like it, and we'd love to go back.
I agree, John. If anything, could we go back to like 2015 for no reason?
You just early 2015. You know, just go back to 2015 and then just like, I don't know, demolish an escalator so it doesn't exist.
Yeah, or maybe, just like, unscrew some screws.
Or maybe go back further and, you know what? Let's not continue down that joke line because we've got an award show to do. And I don't want to, I don't feel like bleeping out more threats on public figures like our last episode. So let's get to it. For those of you tuning in either on the audio form or on YouTube, where we have some very pretty, totally real backdrops behind us.
Look at this.
The way this show is going to work, Veronica and I have chosen our top 10 movies of the year, as well as some fun senior superlatives. Funniest moment, most overhyped, stuff like that. We're going to be going down the list, and to keep time going, Veronica and I do not know our choices yet. And whenever we hit a movie that both of us has, we will discuss it at that time together and skip it the second time. So we're not talking about things twice.
Nice.
I took longer explaining that than we would have taken talking about these movies twice.
But I'm glad we're on the same page. I almost feel like this explanation was needed for us.
Well, the explanation, honestly, it was something I was going to discuss before recording, but we got distracted making virtual backdrops.
Fair, but worthy of the effort.
This might be why award shows have scripts. But why don't this is always going to be always a long episode. So why don't we jump into it with our number 10. Veronica, would you like to go first?
I would love to go first, John. My number 10 is, what is it actually? Hold on. The way that I have this list set up, it's not numbered, and I have a longer list than
Veronica's just flipping through Letterboxd and choosing movies at random to be her top 10.
Fair. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out where do I start. Okay, I will start with September 5th. Yeah. So that is the movie that talks about how the broadcasters of ABC reacted to the hostage crisis in the Munich Olympics of 1972. This, to me, felt like just a return to producing just good old-fashioned movies for adults about people being competent, yet maybe sometimes conflicted or complicit in their jobs. I think the cast all over are fantastic. The amount of detail that you get about analog TV production from that time is so fascinating to someone like myself who is a big nerd about those things. And overall, had a great time. I mean, as great as you can have considering the subject matter with this very brisk and very efficient movie. John, what is your number 10?
Well, we're kind of on trend already. To continue this little trend of good, old-fashioned, straight down the middle movies for adults with a great cast, I'm going to put my number 10, Conclave. This is the Edward Berger adaptation of a novel about a bunch of cardinals. Are they cardinals? They're cardinals, right? Cardinals trying to be pope and being a bunch of catty bitches. It was a lot of fun. I had a good time. I watched it to get my mind off the election. It didn't help on that, but it did entertain me, and that's more than enough. This was an absolute treat. I had a good time. Conclave.
Nice.
And now I think we're doing the thing where, like, now I'll do the next one and then you do the next two.
Sure, but I will just want to say that I also have Conclave on my list.
Oh, I've already, while trying to move on to the next rule, I've already forgotten the last rule I explained. Boy, we could have talked about this before we recorded.
But the backdrops, John, the backdrops.
To be fair, it wasn't just the backdrops. I was also looking for a bow tie for 30 minutes because I was going to wear a tuxedo. I could not find the bow tie, and I'm a little upset. Conclave, Veronica, what'd you think?
It is coming up on my list. So stay tuned. I just loved how seeing it with a audience in a packed screening felt like you're seeing like a big Hollywood crowd pleasers. There were whoops and hollers and applauses. People were so engaged with that movie, which is in its essence about electing the new pope. Like, it shouldn't be as exciting as it is, and yet the way that it is made makes it so engaging. Plus, the way that it looks is fantastic. It's like one of the most beautiful movies you would see this year. The color compositions are beautiful. Some of the shots are fantastic. So yeah, all around, very good movie.
Diami's not the answer to anything, and you know it. If you want to defeat Tedesco...
This is a conclave, Aldo. It's not a war.
It is a war, and you have to commit to a side.
For some reason, modern audiences really related to a story about a dying institution crumbling from the inside. On to number 9, I got Kinds of Kindness. Ooh. This is Yorgos Lanthimos, right off of his Oscar winner Poor Things, making a movie that definitely will not win any Oscars. An aggressively antagonistic triptych of short stories. He's back working with his Greek co-writer. This is something I should have looked up. Eltimus Filippo. I'm sorry. But this is his co-writer from a lot of his earlier movies, Dogtooth, The Lobster, stuff like that. And their collaborations have a very specific feeling to them. And this is a movie that, I honestly... This is going to be a real winner of a rave. Can't say I super enjoyed watching in the moment, except for a few moments that might come up later on the list, later in our broadcast. This is not broadcasting, but this is a movie. While it was kind of a rough, unpleasant watch, that's too downbeat. It is a fun watch. It's very funny, but it is very dark. It is a movie that for the next couple weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about, and I liked it more and more each time I thought about it. Thinking about the way the story's connected, the different characters, the kind of repertory cast all plays different roles, and I liked it a lot. And I'm going to talk about one specific moment later in this show. So, Veronica, Ooh. What's your number 9?
Well, first, again, I will say that Kinds of Kindness is also on my list coming up soon. I'll add to your beautiful, beautiful ode to Kinds of Kindness is how you mentioned that to me, Yorgos has 2 modes. He has the sort of the favorite Poor Things, more quote unquote refined mode. And then he has the kind of the more batshit crazy mode of a Dogtooth or The Lobster or The Killing of a Sacred Deer. And to me, as a viewer, I always found more to love and enjoy about the latter category than I did about something like a Poor Things, which are still fun, but to me, not what make him unique as a filmmaker. And so I was just very delighted that he still chose to go back to that mode. And I will also be talking about some scenes from it later.
I love, to be clear, these 2 movies, those 2 modes are very dependent on the writer he's working with. Because we have Filippo with these movies, and then, oh my God, what's his name? Tony McNamara is the writer of Poor Things, The Favorite. He also was the creator of The Great. Yorgos Lanthimos directed the pilot of that. And I think they are both excellent writers, and I love both of their works. And it's very interesting to see. It's a clear, while the directorial voice is the same, there's a very clear difference in like how the humans act in the two different types of movies. McNamara's humans are much more like people you talk to on the street, whereas I mean, compared to the characters in, say, The Lobster,
for sure.
What would be an easier character to have a conversation with?
For sure. I would love to have a conversation with Queen Mary. Or no, Queen Anne, sorry. All right. Well, John, you asked me what my number 9? Is that where we're
now
at?
you're on to number 8.
Am I?
Oh,
no, because it's not my number 9.
Right. No, this is always such a shithole. You are on your number 9. You were you have Kinds of Kindness later. What's your number 9?
Exactly. It is My Old Ass. A coming of age journey to self-discovery on shrooms. And I thought it was absolutely sweet and adorable. I think the trailer does not do justice to the emotional richness of this movie. I think a lot of the descriptions of it sometimes make it seem kind of gimmicky, which I guess it has a gimmick, but it's not gimmicky. I loved all the characters. I loved Aubrey Plaza's role in it and her relationship to her younger self. And yeah, I just thought it was a very sweet ode to being in a very particular age, feeling very particular emotions, and but still being hopeful about your future. So, My Old Ass.
Yeah, My Old Ass, beautiful movie. We have biggest surprise on this list, and in some ways this should have been my biggest surprise because I was surprised by how much I absolutely adored this movie. This is written and directed by Megan Park, stars Aubrey Plaza, and actually a smaller role but very important role, smaller than the marketing would have you believe. But the main character is Maisie Stella, who I was not familiar with, but she is wonderful, and this is just such an incredible example of taking story beats that like it's a coming of age movie, and we've seen a billion coming of age movies, and taking the elements that work from them, but putting one little twist, this little sci-fi twist that makes everything feel new. You take that out, this could be a fucking Nicholas Sparks movie, but you put it in and it's an incredible movie. And it is on my list as well. We'll get to that later. But now we can go to your actual number 8.
Well, my actual number 8, we already talked about. It is Kinds of Kindness.
Oh, so we were close, 9 and 8.
Yeah, I'll add about it is that I also got a huge chuckle out of the fact that there were multiple people walking out of the theater during the screening that I saw. And I think Yorgos would appreciate that. I think he would treat it as a badge of honor.
My favorite ever theater walkout was seeing people walk out right at the end of Killing of a Sacred Deer, another Lanthimos Filippo joint. And it is the scene with the gun, and I'll leave it at that. And I just remember thinking, fair. You can tell where this story's going, and if you don't want to see the end, it's fair to leave. Okay, then my number 8 is Nosferatu. This is Robert Eggers tackling of the Dracula story by way of F.W. Murnau and by way of Coppola. Oh my God, who did the 79 one? Herzog. It is. I know you had, like, we talked about this and you were a little bored by it. because you felt it was the story you've seen all the beats before. I think I'm not a big remake guy. There is when there was that big wave of horror remakes in the aughts, I thought they were all very annoying, but the only one that I was like okay with the concept of was the idea of an Evil Dead remake. And that's because to me, Evil Dead is not like a story. It's like a premise that filmmakers can do whatever they want with. And I feel kind of that way about the Dracula story. I've seen this story before many times, but I was very interested to see Robert Eggers' version of that story. I wanted to see what it looked like. I wanted to see what it felt and sounded like. And I really enjoyed it. It was very spooky. I think the Coppola one is more fun. It's hornier, hornier in a more fun way. Not that this one is not horny. This one's horny, but in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable. There's no topless Monica Bellucci in this one. I think that's who's one of the brides in the Coppola one. But you get those beautiful shots like Nicholas Hoult walking down that path in the dark in that perfectly like kind of silhouetted shot, and stuff like that, stuff like the shadow of the hand going over the city. Those are the things I want. I want if you're going to do the Dracula story, I want you to not necessarily put a new spin on the story. I think that's one way to go, or put a new spin on the way you're telling the same story. And I just had a good time watching this. This was my shit. I enjoyed it. Number 8.
Good for you.
All right. I guess now it's time for our first special categories, right?
Ooh, yes.
All right. Our first one is good scene, bad movie. This is a scene from a movie we did not like, but we like that scene. I don't know that I needed to explain it. It's pretty self-explanatory from the category title. Veronica, would you like to lead us off?
Sure. I was on the record on this podcast thinking that Civil War was pretty generic and kind of missed the spot for me. However, I absolutely was on the edge of my seat and tense as hell watching Jesse Plemons be a creep and a weirdo for only 5 minutes in this movie, as opposed to a far longer time in Kinds of Kindness. It's been a great year for Jesse Plemons. So the scene, probably you can call it the What Kind of an American scene, which is him holding essentially at gunpoint the reporters who are trying to make their way to the White House and perhaps interview the president who's presiding over the collapse of the United States. Yes, a far-fetched sci-fi scenario. I feel like...
Remember how the movie ends?
Well,
I'd talk about it more, but I'd have to bleep it out again.
But yeah, I thought that scene had all the tension that the rest of the movie, to me, did not really contain. It had the right level of ambiguity that I feel like was probably like even too present in the rest of Civil War, where you never really felt like, what does Alex Garland actually want to say, except for like generic, like war is bad messages. I feel like this scene shows what the movie could have been if a more interesting point was made in it. So that is my good scene from a bad movie.
Mine is the hardware store scene from a little movie called Longlegs. Longlegs might come up again in this list, so I won't talk about the movie too much now. Not in my top 10, don't worry. It would not be a good scene, bad movie if it was in my top 10. But This is the scene where this is in, very importantly, the first half of Long Legs, aka the good half of Long Legs. And this is the scene where we still have not seen Nicolas Cage's face. Also good. He is in a hardware store and he comes up to talk to a teenage girl who's working the counter. And he's fucking weird. And this scene to me so perfectly captures that kind of very eerie feeling of interacting with a person who is clearly off and you don't know how dangerous they may or may not be or how to react to them. At this point, obviously, we know that this person is a murderer, but the teen girl does not. But she is clearly, her hackles are up. Is that the expression? And she has a line where she yells back to her unseen dad, presumably the proprietor of the store, and she after Nicolas Cage walks away at the end of the scene, she says, "Dad, the weird guy came back again." And to me, like, that line has like implies so much, you know, there's so much in that line and in the world building that when this movie completely collapses, falls apart. This was the part of the movie where I'm like, oh, this could be something really good.
Cuckoo, 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 cuckoo.
I don't know what that was supposed to be.
And what day is your birthday, little angel?
Daddy! That gross guy is back again.
Whatever the case, I think this scene was incredibly creepy and very good. All right. Next category. This is an old movie we saw for the first time and we liked. Now, I'll go first this time. I could have done. I saw Lawrence of Arabia on the big screen for the first time, which is kind of like seeing it for the first time. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, I am going to do 2022's movie. I'm not going back that far. Sorry. This is Christopher Borgle's movie, Sick of Myself. Mostly because I just want to talk about it. This is Nicholas Borgle. He's speaking of Nicolas Cage, Christopher Borgle. Sorry. He wrote and directed Dream Scenario from last year, a movie that I loved the first 2/3 and did not like the last third. Sick of Myself, a movie he made previously. That was the one where I didn't really like the last like 5 or 10 minutes, but everything up until that, I absolutely loved. This is about two incredibly shitty people who are in a relationship, a man and a woman. They both claim to be artists of some kind. He's successful, though talentless. She's talentless, but unsuccessful. And they both hate each other, but also love each other. Yeah, they mostly hate each other. And it's mostly just them in a relationship where they constantly compete with their own romantic partner for attention, which leads the female half, played by Christine Kuja Thorpe, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, to do some very, very, very shitty things. But I really liked it. Sick of Myself from 2 to 3 years ago. I don't know when it came out in its where's this movie fucking from? Where's Borgle from? I'm so dumb.
He's Norwegian, I believe.
Yes. Those dark comedy Norwegians. They're very good. We get a cameo from Anders Danielsen Lee from Worst Person in the World. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. Good movie. All right, Veronica, what you got for that category?
So for that category, I went back even less time than you.
Fuck it.
And
I'm just
this
saying
is
Lawrence
a
of
movie
Arabia
I
then,
ju-
so this category doesn't seem ridiculous. Lawrence of Arabia. All right, Veronica.
Well, I guess I have two and I can talk about an older one, but the one I do want to
No,
talk
no, no.
about is Perfect Days. So yeah, Perfect Days comes to us all the way from the year 2023. So it's a very
Ooh.
old movie that I slept on in the year that it came out. It's Wim Wenders' movie with whom I have a checkered past in that I kind of hate Paris, Texas. However, this movie is an absolute gem. It basically focuses on this guy called Hirayama who cleans toilets for a living, but instead of being kind of like a depressing depiction of someone, probably not living up to the life that they wanted for themselves. This is kind of a meditation about being at peace and taking pride in what you do and caring about what you do and caring about the people who are around you and giving them grace and being patient with them. I just thought it was so beautiful. It's also like a weird ad for how clean the Japanese bathrooms are. So it's kind of like a travelogue of bathrooms because he goes to a lot of them. But it's such a beautiful movie. He has these encounters with different characters who kind of come to him, whether it's his niece, who he is somewhat estranged from her mother, who moves in with him for a bit, or if it's from a girl who steals one of his beloved cassette tapes and tries to sell them for money. He always has grace for these people, and he always... like, he treats life the way that we should all be treating life. And I found it really, really moving and beautiful in a way that's also just like not saccharine or preachy. So good job, Wim. You won this time. And yeah, and I guess the second one I would mention is I saw Raging Bull for the first time, and it was great.
Really? Yeah. It's a pretty good one. That De Niro guy.
Who would have thunk? Yeah.
All right. Our next category is biggest disappointment of the year. Veronica, lead us off.
Oh boy. Okay. So I will preface by saying that to me, disappointment means that I was looking forward to this thing. Disappointment means that I had high hopes, that I came to something with an open heart and mind and arms and legs or whatever. So having said that, my disappointment of the year is Furiosa. I mean, Mad Max Fury Road is one of my favorite movies of the last decade. I think it's fantastic, and I've seen it too many times.
And it is now a full decade old. How about that?
I know. Isn't that sad? But we're all gonna die. And so I came to Furiosa with a ton of expectations. And I think what was delivered is essentially a very similar movie to the first. It felt like a retread on some of the greatest hits from the first, but the previous Mad Max movie. I think we kind of discussed this in our episode about it, but the beauty of these movies is that you kind of go with every movie into a different environment and see basically George Miller construct a brand new world for you that you get to explore and enjoy. And this one felt like we are back to the same world, which was a great world and super interesting, but the surprise was just not there for me as much. And so that is why I felt it was pretty disappointing. What is yours, John?
Yeah. If I was being honest, I would guess like possibly the biggest disappointment would be Maxine, because I loved the first two movies in the trilogy so much, but I still liked Maxine. It just wasn't on the level of the first two. So I'm not going to say that one. Instead, I'm going to say a little movie called Trap, because... Once I realized what the premise
Lady Raven
was,
is here, John. Don't you remember?
I know. I'm so sorry, Lady Raven. Everyone, put your hands together and forgive someone. What the fuck was that speech she gives during the movie? Think of someone you want to forgive. Once I realized what the premise was, that they were basically making a movie out of the Berlin level from the recent Hitman video game, I was like, fuck yeah, that rules. A killer walking around in a crowded place, putting on disguises and killing people to sneak his way out. Hell yeah. And it was that for 1/3 of the movie. And I said, hell yeah. And then the movie went, guess what? It's not that anymore. And I said, oh no. And then it continued and I went, oh no. And then it continued and I went, what is this? So that Trap, M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, will be my biggest disappointment of the year.
Okay.
All right. Our next, we're going to go from negative to positive. This is our funniest moment of the year. New category. Mostly because there's just two moments that I saw this year that I'm like, when they both happened, they're individual moments. I want to talk about that on our end of the year list. Mostly because neither movie was number one at the box office. So I'm going to do my first of a few cheats in this episode and have two for this category. First, we've got the videotape from Kinds of Kindness. I will leave it at that.
That's mine.
Oh, no. Okay, then I won't talk about it anymore. You could talk about it. Good, I'm not cheating. Okay. I'll give that one to you. Instead, I am going to pick the moment from Anora when Vanya does a full naked backflip on the bed. She asks him if he wants to have sex, and he goes, oh, yeah, and flips over backwards, and never has one moment so perfectly encapsulated a character. He is a young, rich idiot, and doing a backflip in bed to fuck the sex worker you've hired to be your girlfriend for a week is the perfect version of that, and it made me laugh very hard. Similarly to a moment that I think you're about to talk about, Veronica.
Yeah, let's set the scene. Because I think the setup in this instance is everything.
To be clear, I don't think you should spoil what the videotape is.
Okay. I will say that Jesse Plemons, in the second of three stories that make up Kinds of Kindness, plays a grieving man named Daniel. And he has lost his wife, and he has two of his friends, a couple, over to have a very, very awkward meal. And during said meal, all he wants to do is remember Liz the way that he remembers her. And wouldn't it be nice if there was a video of Liz that they could all watch together? Now, his Martha and Neil, his couple of friends, are kind of being awkward about it. And it's not really clear why. Why are they being such assholes? Why won't they just watch the video? And then we cut to a face of a cat watching the video first. And then And I guess taking your advice, I will not spoil what it is, but it is surprising.
This is after the first story, which is, so just like kind of grim and like dry. It's all like, like I said, a very antagonistic movie. And then this is just the first, just flat out joke. And it so comes out of nowhere. And I laughed so hard when it happens.
Yeah,
it is leave it at that.
So well done. Such a well construction. And I just love the way that it keeps going for a while.
All right, let's get back to our numbered countdown. I will lead off number 7. Now, last time we checked the numbered countdown, I put a movie at number 8 that Veronica did not really like. Time to do it again. For number 7, I put Alex Garland's Civil War. I didn't just like one scene. I liked the whole movie. I really like the movie. This is a case where I've read interviews with Alex Garland afterwards that make me like it less. Just I'm like, oh, that's what you were going for? But I'll stick for what I felt in the moment. As things have gotten progressively worse and worse in this country, and there have been times where I'm like, fuck it. Let's just go to war. This is a good reminder that'd be very bad. And I know some people find that very simplistic. Just war is bad, which is probably why he tried to sell it more as a story about the courageous war journalists. But I think I've always been someone who likes a good blunt metaphor, a good blunt message that is clear, but then explored in interesting ways. And to me, that's what this was. I think the choice to make the sides kind of separate from what our actual situation is and not explain it. I think I know some people that bothered a lot of people. I think it was the right choice because I didn't really root for either of the sides. And you know what? If I was a civilian in a war zone, I probably wouldn't be rooting for anyone except for myself to not get shot either. And I found it thrilling and tense, and it made me feel physically ill afterwards. And a great couple years for young Kaylee Spaney. I don't know. She was in Alien, Romulus, and Priscilla. She's good in this.
Priscilla.
Kirsten Dunst is great. And I liked that dude as well. I like all the cast. Wagner Moura, Stephen McKinley Henderson. Great cast. I thought it was fun. That's my number 7, Civil War. Why am I talking like the movie phone guy?
Civil War. I don't know. Well, tell me what you want to watch. Oh my God. Did I close my tab? Hold on. Sorry. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Okay. Okay. Yes. All right. Well, Jon has been cheating all this time, just bringing up extras when there's no rules, as if there's no rules. Well, I'm just going to do it right now, too. And maybe in a somewhat reductive way. But I'm going to talk about the 2 movies about being Jewish that are not The Brutalist from this year. They are A Real Pain and Between the Temples.
I am.
Okay, so can I make a confession? I hate to begin things with a lie.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm actually Protestant, 100% Protestant.
J-date is for Jews. That's why there's a J.
No, I know that. I just, I guess you can say I hate the way foreskin feels.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah. So Between the Temples is probably the lesser scene of the two. And it focuses on kind of like a May, December, maybe August, December friendship / romance.
Don't say August, December. Jason Schwartzman is not that much older than us.
I mean, I don't know. He seems anyway. It's not a Harold and Maude.
I refuse to consider myself in like a mid July.
Sorry, John. You're a mid July. But yeah, so Jason Schwartzman plays this cantor in a synagogue who was recently widowed. Whose two lesbian moms keep trying to set him up with every fucking woman that they seem to meet. And Carol Kane plays an older lady who we all will become someday, who wants to have a bat mitzvah that she has never had. And so she starts taking lessons from him. And since they are both in some level damaged and dysfunctional, a weird sort of romance blooms. I think I mentioned this the first time that I talked about it on one of our podcasts, how well this movie is paced and shot. There's specifically one scene that was a contender for my scene of the year where it's a dinner scene that's essentially has the same cutting cadence as a Transformers movie or a Jason Bourne movie. It is so tense, which I love. There's a lot of kind of inventive stuff like that happening. Robert Smigel is in it playing like a pretty fun rabbi character that's really understated and good. The movie also looks really good. It looks like it was shot on like 16 millimeter or something. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more things that Nathan Silver makes because he has like a particular sensibility that I really, really like. Speaking of sensibilities that I already like a lot, Jesse Eisenberg's A Real Pain was right up my alley. It basically talks about a trip to Poland taken by two Jewish cousins coming from America to see both some of the concentration camps and also visit the house where their grandma lived before the Holocaust. And it is an occasion for one of them to basically break down and make everything about himself, while the other one is really trying to relate to him and emote without necessarily having the tools to do so. And I thought it was great. It was very funny and it was moving and it felt like a real depiction of real people. And it didn't have the neat kind of like ending that would wrap it all up and solve everyone's problems that I feel like would have ruined this movie. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. It's just shy of my list. If you had asked if we had recorded this on a different day, it might have been on my list. My opinions fluctuate. But yeah, no, I liked it a lot. Have not seen Between the Temples yet.
Would recommend.
Let's keep it going. Veronica, what is your number 6?
Oh my God, I have to keep talking and about Jews because I'm going to talk about The Brutalists now. Yeah, The Brutalist. I mean, this feels like a movie that was made for me. It's like a movie about brutalist architecture with a brooding score, a very evocative cinematography, with people being very cagey and opaque and sometimes cruel with their behavior and emotions. All of that is catnip to all Viron. And I thought the movie, like, I am now gonna say that it's not as good as it could have been, but I feel like it's still like a high bar to live up to. I think the first half of it is so great. Like I could have watched that happen for 3 hours. I think the opening scene is another candidate for scene of the year for me. I guess spoiler alert, it's not, but there's something so evocative about the combination of the score and the overture and the angle of Statue of Liberty and the claustrophobia on that boat to Ellis Island that I found captivating. I loved all the performances. I would single out Guy Pearce. I think he's doing fantastic work here, even though I think everyone else does as well. And I think while to me it did not live up to everything that I hoped that it would be, it did make me very excited about Brady Corbet as a film director. And because he's so young, perhaps I gave him more of the benefit of the doubt. And I was just very excited about potentially being even more excited about his future projects. All right. I rambled for a long time, John.
That's okay. We're gonna hit brutalist level lengths for this episode.
Oh boy. Should we do an intermission?
Yep. We're gonna have 15 minutes where people can just look at a picture of a wedding. Can
I say something very short about that? Is that this movie theater where I saw the screening fucked up, and what they did is that they did not, like, it just went to black.
No.
Because I think they forgot. And so for 10 minutes, there was nothing. And then they started the cart. So it was an additional 15 minutes. So the break was far longer.
Hope you didn't have plans after that movie.
I was just flying to Argentina.
Similar to A Real Pain, just shy of my list. Loved the first half. The last 40 minutes or so I kind of bounced off of. But yeah, great movie. I might talk about it later. You know who's done a lot of really interesting work? Felicity Jones. I like her. She's good.
She's good. Yeah, hot take.
I think it's because the first time I noticed her was in that fucking Theory of Everything, and I'm like, she's like a boring biopic actress. So I think in my mind I kind of put her in that category, which is unfair. And she does a lot of really interesting movies. Okay, moving on. My number 6 is a little movie called Heretic. Now, we've got a big trend that has gone on for a lot of the movies I've talked about, including the last one, movies where I didn't like the ending as much as I liked the beginning. And to be clear, the last act of Heretic does not live up to the first 2 acts. To also be clear, I don't know how it could have. I genuinely don't know, unless the writer-directors, Scott Beck and Brian Woods, found some way to teach the audience something new about the meaning of life. I don't know how you could follow a setup of redefining religion and make it genuinely satisfying. But it is, the last third is fun, and it is satisfying thematically. The first 2/3, however, which is basically all one long scene, I would if someone said they were putting that up as a play, I would go opening night. I loved it. It was so fun, so creepy, so funny. It is just a long conversation between 3 excellent actors. You have Sophie Thatcher, who I also just really liked in Companion, and Chloe East, who I didn't realize was the young woman I really liked in The Fabelmans until after the movie. And then you have Hugh Grant just doing the performance of his life, being the shittiest atheist narcissist douchebag. I loved the first 2/3 of this movie so much. I liked the last third, but I loved the rest so much. So creepy, so funny. The Monopoly scene, wonderful. Hugh Grant does an impression of Jar Jar Binks at some point, I'm pretty sure. It's so much fun. I had a great time with this one.
As I understand it, stop me when I go wrong, he was visited in the night by an angel called Moroni.
Moroni.
Moroni, who showed him where he could locate some golden plates near his home. His mysterious translation of those plates form the basis of this.
Wow. No, you read more than we do. No, seriously, we should be more like you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed.
And now, moving on. My number 5. This is a movie I liked.
We're already there.
Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Number 5. This is a movie that I liked the whole way through. Wow.
Ooh.
In fact, I liked it more as it went along. This is Luca Guadagnino's Challengers. I thought this was just a delight. I thought, again, it's a 3-hander. I thought the 3 of them were fantastic. And beyond the very thick sexual undercurrent that's going on between the trio, I think this movie captures the friendships, romantic entanglements of very talented young people incredibly well, in a way that I don't think I've seen before. I found the characters as they age. I found the structure ingenious, cutting back and forth between this match at the end to their growing up through their 20s. The final match point is exhilarating. The trio is all great. Same with the trio in Heretic. I like Challengers quite a bit. And that tennis ball you mentioned at the beginning of the show, wonderful performance.
Amazing. Well, Heretic was just off of my top 10, so it was my brutalist. The Challengers, unfortunately, did not make my top 25.
Wow. You and I have differed much more than usual this year.
That's true. That's good. That's good for the listener. Add some excitement. I predict that we will continue to disagree as
I know at least one movie that we've been putting off talking about for a while.
As I talk about my number 5 pick, which is Coralie Farjat, The Substance. I think it's one of those things, and I think you kind of talked about it with Kinds of Kindness, where I really had a great time watching The Substance in a movie theater, but it was a packed house, and especially towards the end, all the body horror stuff got amazing reactions from the audience, and it was just great to see it in a full house. But I also, I was thinking about, I don't think it holds up if you actually start asking questions. Like, what does Demi Moore get out of it? But I think as the time went, I actually found myself caring way less about that stuff and thinking about all the super cool stuff in this movie. And we can start with the twin performances, or I guess they're not twins, they're one.
Don't forget. They are one.
Of Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, and I think Dennis Quaid being so fucking disgusting and just having the greatest time. Sorry, what
Veronica,
were you going to say?
what do you think is more disgusting? Dennis Quaid's performance as this repulsive, misogynist monster, or his performance as Ronald Reagan from the same year? To be fair, his TV producer character probably has much less blood on his hands.
Ooh, I guess, yeah, we don't know what Trail of Bodies. We don't know what he did in Iran in the 1980s.
He killed a lot of shrimp, but he's an awful character, but I don't think he put in place policies that have destroyed America for the past 40 years.
Well, I mean, how do you feel about, the beauty industry and the fitness industry and the unreasonable standards that we put for females in general and for aging females in particular?
That's fair. That's fair. Canceling Ms. Sparkle's workout show is just as bad as deregulating all the corporations, leading us to a late capitalistic hellscape.
Great. I'm glad you agree. And so to keep going, I think the movie is probably the best looking movie I've seen this year. The composition on many of these shots is fantastic. You could have most of them as a wallpaper. I thought all the monster makeup was fantastic. And it's just like so fun. It does feel like baby's first horror movie, but you know what? I had a really, really fun time with it. And I'm very glad it exists.
Just didn't make my top 10. This is a movie I think I've talked about on the show that I really respected what it was doing. I really enjoyed it. The pacing felt off for me, similar to I compared it to Beau is Afraid from previous years. But most importantly, I saw this in an empty matinee, and I really should have seen it in a full theater. But this is a movie where I bet if I rewatch it, I would like it more. I liked what it was doing, certainly while I watched it. And you know what? I'm all here for the Margaret Qualley ascension to the apex of all entertainment. Kinds of Kindness, and here she is in the videotape from Kinds of Kindness.
Oh boy, is she.
Are you next?
I think we are doing more superlatives. Is that not true, John?
Shit, you're right. Oh my goodness. I'm losing my mind. In fact, we are doing musical moment.
Oh my God.
This is our favorite musical moment from a movie, from a year, and I'll get out of the way. We both chose the entirety of Joker 2. We loved it. We loved every bit of it. Moving on to our next category. All right, Veronica, what's your favorite musical moment from cinema in 2024?
All right. Well, it was mentioned earlier by you, John, and I was like, I hope he doesn't mention it exactly. And you didn't, so that's fine. It is Hugh Grant's lecture about recycling music, essentially, from Heretic. He kind of talks about how we as a society repackage the same ideas but that are essentially the same under the hood, and to get to bring one of the examples outside of evolving monopoly boards. He talks about the song The Air That I Breathe by the Hollies that was then repurposed, or I guess like some of its themes were adapted by Radiohead's Creep. I mean, despite knowing this, and from the moment that he mentioned the Hollies, I was like, okay, I know where this is going. I still found his performance of it so entertaining. It's like a TED Talk by the worst person in the world. It's like, imagine you met the most self-satisfied Reddit user and have them talk at you about things that you already know about. It's that, but with the sort of the charm and charisma of Hugh Grant, and it works so fucking well. And I could have watched that scene for like 50 more minutes. He could have kept talking about other things and other times and music was repurposed, and I would have just been along for the ride. So that is my musical moment.
The Heretic screenplay is so fucking good. Do you know it has pictures in it? I've been flipping through the actual screenplay. They have the pictures of the Monopoly boxes to illustrate, which is makes that scene better to read. Anyway, this is a category that I cheated really hard because I got 3. I'll shoot through them. The opening montage from Anora, set to the song Greatest Day. Apparently just a song that Sean Baker and his producing partner / wife, I think they just heard on the radio and they were like, this would be a good song to open the movie. And boy, is it. It couldn't be better. It is so perfect. That shot going through the lap dance room with all the women dancing in slow motion and then Mikey Madsen slowly comes up to camera. Perfect. Cinema, baby. Cinema. Perfect choice of song. Also, this one I'm just going to briefly mention because technically it came out in December 2023, but I didn't hear about it till 2024. This is the movie The Sweet East. It's a small movie I think I mentioned briefly, directed by Sean Price Williams. It is a kind of episodic satire movie. It's interesting. And I remember when I talked about it on this show, I said, I wish it was all as good as the opening credits, which after this is right before a Pizzagate happens. But the lead character, played by Talia Ryder, just breaks into song in the bathroom of a shitty pizza place and sings in gauzy close-up into the mirror. And it's a great song. If you have watch the trailer for the movie. If it interests you, watch the movie. If it doesn't interest you, just look up the opening credits. They're on YouTube as well.
I'm the cat that lost its black, who won silver door to star-flowered shore. I'm the first of the fair and float through air when midnight comes around. When midnight comes around.
Okay, my actual pick. We'll say my actual pick. No, they're all tied. Fuck it. My third pick. We've had a bunch of David Lynch tributes since David Lynch tragically passed recently. And I think one of the best tributes was actually earlier in the year. And this was the multiple musical sequences in the movie I Saw the TV Glow. Now, going by the basic kind of homages throughout the movie, and I know the writer-director James Schoenbraun has mentioned that these scenes were a bit inspired by the bronze sequences from the Buffy, the Vampire Slayer TV show, where bands that WB just wanted to promote, had some deal with, would just show up at the bronze and play a song while Xander talked about what they're going to do next. But this felt much more like the musical sequences in Mulholland Drive and Fire Walk With Me, when a character just sees a beautiful... there are two of these. I'm speaking specifically about the scene where they play the song Claw Machine by... Oh my God, is her name Slippy Jane or Sloppy Jane?
I don't know.
I had all these things open except for this one. Let me get this right. Sloppy Jane, who is a musician and performance artist who I think Phoebe Bridgers used to be in a band with, but they play together the song Claw Machine. It is at a very emotional point of the movie. And I think it's just... I love a good scene where a character at their emotional peak just sits and watches a good musical performance. I like that. I like that in those David Lynch movies, and I liked it here. That's my musical moment. I talked too long. Let's move on. Our next category is biggest surprise of the year. Now, there is a movie that is more my biggest surprise of the year, but I will be talking about it later on this list, so I won't talk about it now. So I'm going to talk about smaller biggest surprise because I just had never heard of this movie and then fucking loved it. I subscribe to the streaming service Shudder, the horror streaming service, and I frequently will watch just a random movie on there. A lot of them not very good. Sometimes, though, you'll get something fucking great, like the little Irish ghost type story Oddity, which is a wonderful little spooky movie. Most importantly, it has one of the best, like, kind of perfect campfire ghost story opening scenes since Drew Barrymore got stabbed in Scream. It is just a wonderful opening sequence that we then see the rest of later in the movie. I don't want to oversell it. It's not a perfect movie, but as like just a little spooky horror movie, you just can't do better than this. It's a great time. I liked it a lot. Oddity. Veronica, what's your biggest surprise of the year?
Okay, so I will talk about two very briefly. One is kind of dumb, but I was surprised, and don't kill me for this, internet, by how much I enjoyed Unfrosted, the Jerry Seinfeld.
Took me a second to remember what that was.
Yeah, the Jerry Seinfeld parody about the making of Pop-Tarts, I believe. This movie is not great, but I just loved how stupid it was, and it made me laugh a lot, like more than I feel like movies that tried this type of humor usually do. So I just want to just breeze past it and say that it was better than I had any reason to expect. But I guess my true surprise of last year is Juror number 2. Like, for a movie that was basically dumped in 7 theaters unceremoniously by its distributor, you would think that it would be a flaming pile of garbage. And what it actually is a very nuanced movie for adults, like the ones that we have already talked about on this podcast, and it just barely did not make my top 10. It is such a refreshing thing that Clint Eastwood in his mid-90s, I don't know how far into his 90s he is, still is.
When you get to the 90s, it's kind of all the 90s.
Yeah, we love the 90s. And, but yeah, I thought Clint Eastwood, created, something that I think if we were to look back at it and see that, oh, this was his last movie, it would be so, such a great one to have. It was just so refreshing to be watching an original movie for adults in the year 2024, and all the more infuriating to then realize how badly it was treated by Warner Brothers for absolutely no seeming reason. So yeah, all the performances were really good. Nicholas Hoult has About a Boy reunion with Toni Collette, which is very cute. I mean, they have one real scene together, but it was really, really good, and I was so shocked by why this movie was treated this way.
Have we gotten any story about what the hell happened?
I think last I read, it was just that they didn't have the marketing budget to market it, and so they dumped it. And I think maybe there was some clause in Clint Eastwood's thing that said that he would get a theatrical release, so that's why they kind of just I
feel like Conclave proved that that type of adult movie that used to be, I don't know, a third of the movies released, people will still go see them. It's bizarre. I haven't seen that yet. I would like to.
Billionaires know better than us, John. And so if they decided that Juror number 2 doesn't get to have a full release, then they are correct.
Yeah, money talks, specifically the money in David Zaslav's paycheck, not the tons and tons of money that Clint Eastwood has made that company for decades and decades and decades. Anywho, let's move on. Our next category is overhyped of the year. The movie we think is most overhyped. Veronica, I think you can lead this one off.
Oh boy. I'm about to make so many enemies of the letterbox letterboxrati when I say that I think I Saw the TV Glow is not good. And I think the level of adoration for it is unwarranted by the product that is on screen. I think, listen, I'm all for the message of the movie. Be true to yourself and, transition if you are a trans person. Cool, fun. But how about you actually make a movie that says that and not talk about it in interviews? How about you make a movie that actually shows but doesn't tell you what you're trying to say? How about you make a movie that has realistic or believable performances? How about you make a movie that's not at an hour and a half supremely boring? How about you make a movie that actually shows the stakes for these characters? I don't think any of it was present on the screen for me, which is why I was pretty darn disappointed with it and felt like all the hype is for naught.
We've been from the moment you revealed that you didn't like this movie, we've kind of been putting off this conversation for a while, and I don't want to belabor it because this episode's already going to be wildly long. But I mean, you said right there that you want a movie that actually says what it's about, but then in the next sentence you say you want something that shows doesn't tell.
Well, no, I think I want a movie that is a coherent depiction of what it wants to say without actually kind of just like telling me that this is it. You know what I mean?
Do you think the metaphor is not clear?
I think it's very clear. I just think that that's all it is. We know that this is what the movie is trying to say, but then it doesn't actually have any like real dramatic argument of depicting, like, I think it has like some cool visuals and stuff, but I don't think they cohere into an interesting movie. And so I was kind of like flabbergasted, to be honest, that so many people enjoyed it. It felt like very surface level to me. I don't think it actually explores any of the themes. Like, its thesis is if you are trans, you should transition or your life would be miserable. But I don't actually see that thesis depicted in a compelling and interesting way in the movie.
Well, I disagree with all of that.
That's
but
fair.
I will save my rebuttal till later when I talk about the movie itself. Because spoilers, it is on my list. My overhyped. Let's be honest. My actual overhyped is the movie I'm going to put as my worst of the year, but I will save my vitriol for that. So instead, I will talk again about Longlegs. Incredible marketing campaign by Neon. I can't get over how much this movie just fucking falls apart. It's not like Trap where you can point to the exact moment where it does. It's just the spell gradually gets broken as more and more you go, oh, this movie doesn't have interesting answers for any of the like mysteries it set up. And then the movie goes, the devil did it. And I really hate that. It doesn't just go, the devil did it. It goes, listen, the devil did it. Also, the devil did it using dolls. The devil didn't make the dolls. Nicolas Cage made the dolls. He's a doll maker. Is he the devil? I don't know. Maybe. He lives in a house with the main character. Kind of. Sometimes. I don't know. The dolls have metal balls in their head, and the metal balls let the devil spy on people, but also possess people. This has all been introduced in the last 20 minutes of the movie. The nun has to bring the dolls to the house because the dolls can't move, but the dolls sit in the car as if they can move. Fuck the second half of this movie. I want to say this. Awful, insane. I stood up in the theater just fucking baffled. But I will say this. I think the first half of the movie is incredibly suspenseful, incredibly well shot, well edited, and I am genuinely excited to see The Monkey, which I will see very soon, Osgood Perkins' next movie, because I think him just making a movie that just admits it's a goofy comedy is a goofy, dark, bloody comedy is going to be so much better than whatever this was. But hey, I would not call this the most overhyped of the year if the marketing team from Neon hadn't done such a good job. Boy, I hope they all got lots of promotions. Anyway, we're going to take a break from our superlatives and jump back into our numbers. We're getting towards the top of the list. Veronica, would you like to start with number 4?
I would love to start at number 4 because,
by the way, I just want to say right now, we have not yet done a movie at the same number, and I feel like every year we have at least one that is in the same place.
Well, I hate to break to you, it's not going to be this one. My number 4 is a movie you already talked about, called Conclave, as in Cardinals Gone Wild. I just had such a blast at this movie. It's so fun. We talked about it already, and so I won't belabor the point. But if you haven't seen it, do. And Loki, I think it still might win Best Picture. So we'll see.
Yes, I'm looking at the list. We only have one chance for getting a movie in the same place. One thing that we both haven't mentioned yet.
All right, let's focus. Let's mind meld into this.
My number 4 is a movie that came out so long ago, it feels like it couldn't possibly be from 2024, but it is. It was supposed to come out in the end of 2023, in which case it probably would have won a bunch of Oscars last year. Probably, it might not this year because it feels so old. But that is Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2.
Ooh.
Dune Part 2. I was thinking about this. There's something exhilarating about watching someone attempt something that is just objectively incredibly hard and then pull it off to such an exceptional degree. Adapting Dune the way Villeneuve and his team has done feels to me like watching a bowler hit 10 7-10 splits in a row. I don't know much about bowling. That might actually not be that impressive for professional bowling. But if I did it, it would be fucking impressive. But
and you are the Denis Villeneuve of bowling.
That people do say that. People do say that a lot. It's, a book that, first off, so much has been kind of lifted from the Frank Herbert books for other sci-fi stuff, so it could feel old. The problem that the Lynch adaptation hit in the 80s, the fact that the book is 99% exposition through inner monologue. The least cinematic thing that exists. The fact that there's insane amounts of lore that you couldn't get through. Villeneuve and his team, the choice to make it really just like a visual kind of poem. And then more importantly, in this second one, to kind of tweak the character of Chani, played by Zendaya, to tweak her from the book version to make the message of the book clearer and give the story a much more human emotional arc. Brilliant and incredibly effective. The final scenes of this sequel were exceptional. Her walking off at the end with that wonderful Hans Zimmer score was powerful. Timothy Chalamet giving his big spooky speech, excellent. Oh my God. Javier Bardem. Javier Bardem wouldn't have guessed in Dune Part 1 that character would become the comic relief of the series, but boy, is he funny. Yeah, I thought both Dune 1 and 2 were wonderful. I'm excited for Messiah. Thought it was great.
Nice. Well, it actually happens to be that my number 3 is Dune Part 2. I don't have much to add except for to say that for me, it is the rare movie where I don't know what the fuck is going on and I don't care. There's like, I don't understand. I had to Google Timothy Chalamet's character name for this. I don't know who anyone is called. I don't know actually who wants what, but I don't care. It is so visually compelling to see this thing on a huge IMAX screen and be blasted with Hans Zimmer's score is such a fun experience. So memorable to the point that I never want to watch it again on a screen smaller than an IMAX, because just like getting high and sitting and staring at Dune for 2.5 hours is like one of my favorite things to do in a year where a Dune movie comes out. So yeah, I look forward for more. I will not understand any of it, but I don't care.
You know, I'm gonna pitch right now. I think next year we should add a category, best movie to eat an edible before, and I think we can say for this year we'll both give it to Dune Part 2.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. All right, my number 3 is a movie that I think you would like. It's called I Saw the TV Glow. I want to say first off, the bottom 7 of my list kind of stayed pretty much the same, although I swapped Nosferatu and Heretic earlier today. But yeah, really love that Heretic. But this top 3 has gone back and forth all fucking year since I saw them all. And if you ask me tomorrow, number 3 could be number 1, number 2 could be number 3. Anything could change. Right now, this is my top 3. These movies are in the top 3. I think they're basically equally wonderful. So I'm prefacing my top 3 with that. Anyway, so we've gotten the haters' take on I Saw the TV Glow. Without responding directly to what you said, I'll say why I loved it. This is the exact type of movie I love. A movie that uses the language of horror to get at an incredibly true feeling that wouldn't feel as true if you depicted it literally. Beyond the central metaphor of the death that is being closeted or refusing to live the life that is true to yourself, whatever that may be. In this case, we see a trans character and a lesbian, or a queer woman. I don't remember how she does say she's a lesbian, I think, at some point. But the death that is being closeted, we have that. We also have through this movie, in this movie, a depiction of, well, this is not my lived experience as a cishet straight man, whatever, from friends I've talked to and things, conversations I've had. This is a very common experience. The realization through the media, through pop culture, of that you are, queer in some way. And the idea to then take that concept and turn the movie into a kind of a story that turns into the 90s TV shows that gave these characters their awakening, I think is so interesting. And I think the dark twist that happens midway through and then the darker twist that happens at the end are surprising and unmooring in a way they don't go where you think this story is going to go. I'm talking about anything involving graves in this movie. But there was a point in this movie where I was like, oh, why hasn't it ended yet? And then the last 10 minutes happened and I went, oh, because it's not about what I thought about. It's not exactly about being true to yourself. It's about the feeling when you don't live the life you should be living. And I found it, as someone who has never felt that way in a kind of identity way, but it's felt the way we all feel that feeling in different ways of like, not following dreams or whatever. I found this depiction of that kind of death of the soul incredibly powerful and horrifying. And a little funny at times.
It does have Connor O'Malley,
Connor O'Malley,
which was
screaming.
my favorite part.
Happy birthday!
I'm dying right now. But yes. So while it didn't hit for you, Veronica, it certainly hit for me. I thought it was a wonderful movie. It's exactly the kind of thing that I think you can do in genre that you can't do as well. You just like, similar to what I was saying with My Old Ass. You tell this story straight. No pun intended. You tell this story just literally. It's a fucking TV movie. But you do this, it gets at the emotions underneath in a way that I found incredibly effective. So that's my number 3. You already did your number 3?
Yeah.
All right.
Purdue.
So what? Okay. Number 2. This is our only chance to have a movie in the same spot.
Then we won't, I predict.
Oh, no!
But I would be pleasantly surprised if we did. All right, John, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is previously mentioned Honora, the Sean Baker film starring Mikey Madsen. This is such a fun movie. I'm a huge fan of Sean Baker's. I loved Red Rocket, Tangerine, Florida Project. Have you yet to see, I think Starlet is his first movie. But I love his work. He's kind of been, well, Tangerine was funny, but I feel like Florida Project was not that funny. It was too heartbreaking to be funny. But
Red
I feel
Rocket
like,
was funny.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. He's been getting funny. Red Rocket's a straight comedy.
Yeah.
It's a comedy with tragic undertones. And this is a similar thing. And without getting into it, you are waiting for this movie to turn tragic the whole time. And when it finally does, it does in a very surprising way that hits so much harder. The story does not go exactly where it goes generally where you'd expect, but the way those beats happen do not happen the way you you were expecting. I think a lot of people have talked about how most people going into this movie expect there to be guns or violence at some point, some kind of Russian mob type scenario. Never happens. But when this movie does turn tragic, it turns tragic hard. The lead performance from Mikey Madsen, she is incredible in this film. The other cast, I already mentioned Vanya. Do I have? Let's read these cast members.
Yura Borisov.
Mark Edelstein plays Vanya. Yura Borisov plays Igor. And then Toros is Karen Karagilian. Gosh, these names. Vash Thomason, Garnick. Look, I'm having a hard time anywhere that isn't. I got Mikey Madsen, okay, and Sean Baker.
Yeah, good old fashioned American Mikey Madsen, and all these other foreign immigrants.
But it has so many wonderful scenes. The scene with Toros at the christening is incredible.
It's very funny.
It's just an excellent movie. Lots of people are saying it. You've heard it before. I don't need to go into it more. It's a wonderful movie. It could have been my number one. You asked me today. It's my number two.
All right. Well, I guess this is kind of the limitation of the way that we chose to format it. But I mean, it's kind of revealing already that I will say that Nora is also on my list, but coming up. I thought it was so fucking great. Maybe it's because I sort of come from a similar background as these characters. I am an expat from Soviet Union living in Brooklyn. And it felt so authentic to the types of people that I know who would be in that world. And so I just have like a great respect and admiration for Sean Baker to getting it right as someone who is not out of that world. And it also almost elevated all of his other movies for me because it kind of automatically made them more impressive. Because I mean, if you're not part of it, you can never, like, things can feel authentic to you, which is usually good enough. But when you are in that world and they still feel authentic to you, I think that is like the bigger hurdle to I guess jump over, surpass. Anyway, he does it. All the performances are fantastic. I'm glad that we both liked it.
Wow, I wonder where it's going to place in your list.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Well, let's before we get to that, what's your actual number two?
All right. Well, my actual number two is Thelma. I know, I feel like maybe I've already developed a reputation of someone who has a soft spot for old grannies in movies. I think there was one year that I put the Dr. Ruth documentary, I think, in my top 3 somewhere. I just love a feisty old lady, and I think Thelma delivers on that and more. It works both as a comedy and as a very fun action movie. It basically has all the action beats, but kind of thinks through, okay, what would that scene be like if a 90-year-old were to do that scene, and actually honestly does that, usually to hilarious results. It also has like an emotional heart of not only her relationship with her grandson, who I think is absolutely sweet and adorable. He is played by Fred How do you pronounce his last name?
Guy from the first season of White Lotus.
Fred Hashinger, who's in like 1,000 movies this year.
Yeah, he's in the Finn Wolfhard movie coming up, I think.
He's in The Gladiator 2. He's in a far better movie called Nickel Boys. He's in Craven the Hunter, the worst of them all. But yeah, and so but it also has like this lovely friendship with Richard Roundtree that I think elevates this movie, I think, to I don't know, just like top shelf status in my mind. I think it adds to the poignancy that he has since passed away, and this was his last movie. But anyway, I just had a great time, and I wanted to hug that movie and call it on weekends and take it out to early bird dinner specials. So, check out Thelma if you haven't.
Okay, before we get to our number ones, which if you're smart, you can guess, we are going to do our final superlatives. Let's start things off with the scene of the year. And you have already talked about my scene of the year. My scene of the year is the opening boat sequence from The Brutalist. I think
nice.
If any movie moment is still being shown in like clips packages in 50 years, it might be this sequence. It's a moment we've seen in a billion movies. The mid 20th century European immigrants see the Statue of Liberty for the first time, just filmed in a completely different way. At first, we think we are seeing the main character escaping the Holocaust, but I mean, he is, but we realize, he's at America. But you get a simple choice of filming the Statue of Liberty upside down. So simple, so brilliant, says everything you need to say about the rest of the movie. Then that fucking score, incredible. I thought it would be hard to come up with this. A lot of other scenes. Once I remember this scene, there was really no other choice.
Nice. That was definitely a candidate for mine. I will talk about a scene from a movie that we already mentioned. And it is the getting ready scene from The Substance. I know we kind of I mostly talked about how visually compelling that movie is. But I feel like that scene kind of illustrates the emotional heart of that movie. It's such a heartbreaking, poignant scene of Demi Moore's character attempting to get ready to go on a date with a guy who she thought was a dweeb from school, who she runs into, but being so insecure about the way that she looks when she sees herself in the mirror that she not only does she never go to that date, but she also just destroys her face in self-hatred in the process. I kept thinking about that scene for a while after seeing this movie. And I think Demi Moore does a wonderful job in the way that it's shot. I think it's fantastic.
That is an excellent scene. That's just a great scene. Great. Yeah, it's a scene like that really elevates the movie that I liked. Not on my list, though. All right. Next. Okay. Performance of the year. Now, there are a lot of places I could have gone. Mikey Madsen, I mentioned. Wonderful in Anora. Hugh Grant, incredible. But probably could do that role in his sleep and still be incredible. So I'm going to go a little different. I was trying to think about this and I'm like, how about a movie that I should really dislike, but I end up but I can't dislike it because the performances were so good. This is a movie called Strange Darling. Strange Darling is a serial killer thriller told in a kooky chronology mix-up. It's the kind of thing I won't really get into the twist. It feels like a movie where they came up with the twist and kind of stopped working. I know that feels reductive, but that is kind of how I felt, especially if you guess the twist very quickly. But I still, as much as I walked out with my friend after we saw it, and we were both like, did I hate that script? why did I still have fun? And I think that all has to do with the two lead performances. Kyle Gallner is the male lead. And then in particular, an actress who I was not familiar with before, who I'm going to give this to, Willa Fitzgerald. She is playing the female lead of the movie. She is excellent. She has to do a lot of different things in this movie. She carries all of them. This movie works for 3 reasons. On the bottom, Giovanni Ribisi's excellent cinematography. Right above that, Kyle
Giovanni
Gallner's.
Ribisi does
He's the cinematographer, the actor, yeah.
Wow.
The movie looks great. And it knows it too. It has a whole title card. I'm sure they can. They and Brady Corbett could have a long, great conversation about how good their movies look. The Kyle Gallner, who's always terrific, and then
Beaver.
way up there. You have, Beaver from Veronica Mars. Way up there, you have Willa Fitzgerald, and there's really not much I don't want to say much about it, because I'd give away what there is to this movie, but she is thrilling to watch in this film. Genuinely excellent. She gets my performance of the year, despite me being on the movie.
All right. I feel like I have sort of a similar reasoning to picking my performance of the year, which is Lea Seydoux in Bernard Bonello's The Beast.
Another movie. I also was on that movie, but she is great.
The Beast has like such a fantastic premise, and I feel like it almost is impossible to live up to it in all, like, maybe not impossible, but I guess maybe the way that the director chose to explore that premise was not always to my liking, which is in the future where AI basically controls our world. In order to participate in society, you kind of have to let go of your emotions and become a cog in the machine. And so Lea Seydoux's character throughout the movie goes through the process of attempting to purify herself of emotions so that she could exist in this dystopia. And through that, she kind of lives through her past lives and experiences past things that happen in her life. And I think she is so engaging. It's impossible to look away from her. It's impossible to not feel for her. And I think she can through just moments of silence and quiet can convey so much emotionally that I was so taken by her, despite maybe not really emotionally connecting to the movie as much as I wanted to.
Yeah, she is great in that movie. The lead actor, the guy from 1917, I think, he's also really good. I loved the sci-fi frame story. I loved the historical part. I liked the slightly less historical part. I found the Elliot Rodgers stuff kind of tasteless.
Oh, yeah. That stuff, though, the way that it racks up detention, I thought was pretty masterful, in my opinion. And the way that it ties up some of the beginning scene to the end, I thought was really good. But yeah, it's obviously kind of icky.
It's weird to use quotes from an actual murderer and have a character clearly based on him, but then he's not really doing the same thing. I don't know. People have done that. The first Dirty Harry movie has a character who's just Son of Sam. So I don't know. Anyway, I got to wrap this up quick. So okay. Worst movie of the year. If
your favorite,
I didn't have
your
to end
bread
this
and butter.
podcast, if I didn't have to end this podcast in the next 5 minutes, we could go. I could go forever on this movie. Instead, feel free to just listen to our episode on it. Oh my God. There are few things on earth that I've hated as much as I hated Deadpool and Wolverine. Fuck that movie. If you liked it, cool. people like all kinds of terrible stuff. Look at our president. I don't know how you could like this. This is abysmal. I figured it out 20 minutes into this movie. This is a 2-hour-long Super Bowl ad. I said this in our episode. It's the tone of a fucking Super Bowl ad. It's just a bunch of actors selling products, and they're doing a big commercial, and every 5 minutes, another celebrity comes up and goes, I'm here now. And then it goes on, and the jokes are not really jokes. They're just kind of things that are weird to say. Anyway, I'm glad you all laughed at, Deadpool said at one point he says, oh, I'm so wet, which is funny because that's a girl thing and he's a boy. What a funny movie. I hate that movie. I'll end it there.
For me, as I said to you in a text, in an effort to come up with a different worst movie than you, I put on.
Hi, everybody. This is Editing John, cutting into the episode to say that this next section was Veronica saying her least favorite movie of the year. However, after we recorded, she decided that she went a little meaner than she intended and asked me to remove that section from the episode because she is just too nice. So imagine, imagine she's whatever movie you liked least last year, that's the one she talked about. And whatever you think about it, that's what she said. She's all the way with you 100%. Anyway, back to editing out all the massive tech problems we had with this episode. Bye!
It's worse than that.
All right. Let's end our negativity and end our episode with some positivity. Our number one of the year. You have already talked about your number one, correct? Remind people what it is for anyone who hasn't figured it out yet.
It is Anora. Yay.
And I have already talked about my number one as well, because it was one of the first movies you said. I felt really, I was like, I guess I should talk about it here, but I'll just say again, in a year when a bunch of filmmakers that I find so exciting all have movies that I like, Sean Baker, Robert Eggers, Denis Villeneuve, Alex Garland, all these filmmakers that I will go see whatever they make. I was just, the way you described Thelma, a movie you just wanted to reach out and hug, that's the way I felt about My Old Ass. It's hard to talk about with that fucking title, but it's just wonderful. I've told so many people to see it. I have not met anyone who didn't like it yet. I just fantastic. Just a wonderful movie. I guessed where it was going halfway through, and it's one of those things where I'm like, doesn't happen too often, but sometimes I guess the twist. And in this case, I guessed it and I went, that's perfect. That makes exact sense. And when they finally reveal it, it is an incredibly powerful scene. I loved the cast. The chemistry between Maisie Stella and Percy Hines White is fantastic.
You mean Kristen Stewart, right?
Is it what? Did they say he looked?
Stewart. I'm going to keep rehashing my one joke about this movie.
What a wonderful, lovely, lovely movie. If you haven't seen it because it's a coming of age movie called My Old Ass, go see it. It's delightful.
Tell me something good.
Something good.
Why are you struggling to find something good from the future?
This is good.
Okay.
You're gonna be psyched.
Okay, tell me.
That you are a PhD student. Yeah.
No. What? You're joking.
But I don't want to tell you in what, because I want you to have something to look forward to.
Look forward to?
Yeah.
Did you just tell me I'm in my 40s and I'm still in school?
30s.
It also, I will say just really quick, also has an amazing music scene that I really thought you were going to bring up, which is a fantasy scene of her singing a Justin Bieber song, which is way more elaborate and more fun than what it sounds like on paper.
I actually didn't love that moment, just because I felt like I've seen things like that before, and it also reminded me of the claymation scene in Booksmart, a kind of similar movie, where in both those cases I'm like, oh, if you're gonna do this, take it farther. You can go as far as you possibly want with this. So maybe if we're in a realm of pure fantasy, let's take this a little further. But yeah, that scene was cute, but that was not my favorite part of the movie.
Oh, no, for sure. I would also say that outside of kind of the central relationship between those two leads, I actually loved possibly even more her relationship with her best friends, who I thought were absolutely adorable. And I'm like, I want these to be my friends. They're so fun. And her brothers, who I thought were adorable. Yeah,
it's a lovely movie. If it's a kind of movie where if I knew a teenager, I'm glad that I don't. But if I did know a teenager, I would love to suggest they watch it. Just a wonderful film, movie that I'm sure will be many people who are around the age of the main character now will grow up with this as their favorite movie, and I think that's great.
Oh. All right.
Hey, the box office. What did we call it?
The box office are done. Hope you enjoyed all of your favorite actors and favorite movies.
It was a wonderful year of film.
Do the
and
voice.
A wonderful the movie phone voice.
Yeah, like your host voice. Come on.
It was what kind of word show host am I? Whatever. What a wonderful show. It was a wonderful year of movies and a wonderful show. And we had so many technical difficulties recording this episode. We started 3 hours ago, and editing this will be a fucking nightmare.
My regards to the editor, who is not me.
It's not even my turn, and I volunteered to do it before we started recording. Oh, I'm going to be fucking kicking myself tomorrow. Oh, well. Let's hope that 2025, while it's already an absolute fucking dumpster fire of a year in everything other than movies, let's hope we get a top 10 as good as this one. I've already seen 1 or 2 movies that I think could be vying for that spot come next year.
Ooh.
We'll have to wait and see. I'd ask what we're doing on our next episode, but I really have to leave. We need to end this episode.
All right. Well, on that note, toot, toot.
Toot, toot.
The tornado is going to destroy us.
Oh, no. Twisters. We didn't talk about Twisters enough.